JP Morosi is in tonight.
Speaking
He's
of
got lots
Arizona,
of stuff.
he's out there.
Speaking of our guy, let's bring in our man, JP.
Did he go home?
I don't think he went home.
Did he stay there the whole time?
That's our first question. JP, did you go home or not? Or are you still been enjoying a fire pit for 2 weeks?
This is a beautiful place to be. I have a very simple rule when going to beautiful places for the GM meetings. I never phone home to say how beautiful the weather is.
You're so wise.
Just between us.
Absolutely.
Just among us friends.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
If Alexis
and you don't
talks
say,
to any
hey, I
of
had
you,
a great dinner
tell
in 2
Alexis,
hours. You can't do that one
either. We've got rain here today. Unseasonably cool. We're skating out here in the parking lot. That's important to tell back to Alexis in Michigan, okay?
Yep. She's chasing after kids in the snow, and you're like, oh, man, that's rough.
I'm crying that here and talk about it at Herald. All right, JP, let's get to the managerial vacancies first and foremost. And there's a lot of talk right now about Don Mattingly potentially to Milwaukee. What do you got?
Yes, I'll begin there with Don Mattingly and the Brewers. He is on their list and indeed perhaps on their short list of possibilities. He actually was just promoted yesterday by the Blue Jays to a new title that includes offensive coordinator for the Toronto Blue Jays. But again, if he gets a promotion to another position, which of course could be the manager of the Brewers, again, as you both know, a Midwest guy, the great city of Evansville, Indiana, so maybe that would be an appealing spot for Donnie to get back into the managerial chair. As we know, there are 4 teams right now still looking for managers. There are many, many qualified candidates. But Adnan and Harold, I have to make this point this morning. There was only one of those candidates who has received a presidential endorsement. Take a listen.
A los dueños de los Padres de San Diego que están buscando manager, y el manager nuestro que obtuvo por primera vez tercer lugar en la competencia nacional de béisbol mundial, Benjamín Gil, es de primera. Benjamín Gil.
Great.
There's the recommendation, Adnan and Harold, from President Andrés Manuel López Obrador of Mexico, Benjamin Gil. Benjamin Gil, of course, he was born. Benji was in Tijuana, grew up largely on the San Diego side of the border. But gentlemen, I was following the news yesterday and said, I would expect we have to get the presidential endorsement on the A block of the show. We have not had that opportunity to discuss that before in the context of a managerial search. So Harold and Adnan, Benji, I will say this. You did a great job of forging a really strong identity for Team Mexico. Of course, President López Obrador mentioning that. Mexico having their best ever finish at the World Baseball Classic. Benji had 4 championships as a Winter League manager in Mexico. So whether it's the Angels, the Padres, perhaps even the Brewers, a name to watch straight from Mexico City. How about that?
I could see that San Diego connection, man. Can you imagine how close that is to Mexico? Tijuana, 5 minutes away, and everything else. Benji Gil. Yep. Wow, that's interesting. Hey, how about what's happening in Seattle? Talk to me about my boy Jerry DiPoto. What's he talking about? What's the latest?
Well, Harold, a few different things there on Jerry DiPoto and the Mariners. First of all, we know how much Jerry enjoys making trades. This does feel to me to be a trading sort of offseason. There's much more activity right now on the trade market for position players than we typically hear this time of year. And listen to what the priority is going to be for Jerry DiPoto and the Mariners on the hot stove this year.
Likely right now, adding some contact to our lineup. We want to be a little bit better at putting the ball in play, and we feel like we could be. If we could add right-handed bats, we feel really good about our young left-handed bats. We feel really good about our through the middle team and the overall power productivity. And now it's just a matter of trying to fill in the gaps where we might be a little bit more flawed, which is we have a pretty good offensive team that sometimes struggles with contact, and we're going to have to try to solve that.
Harold, as you know, the Mariners have pitching that is the envy of the industry, and yet we saw late in the season, as Jerry pointed out, a lack of contact led to them being 1 win short of making the playoffs in the end. And so we talk about different possibilities. Jonathan India of the Reds, we know how stocked the Reds infield is. The Mariners and Reds have made a lot of trades in recent years. They work very well together on deals, so keep an eye on Jonathan India. I would also mention the Tampa Bay Rays. Perhaps someone like a Yandy Diaz could be an option. What India and especially Diaz have in common, they have a very, very good understanding of the strike zone. And the Mariners, with all of those talented young bats, having that one veteran hitter to round out that group is going to be so important, especially, Adnan, without having Teoscar Hernandez, who is a free agent and does not have the qualifying offer either.
Yeah, let him go. And so much swing and miss in that lineup, H. It must be so frustrating. I mean, their top 3 right-handed hitters led the AL in strikeouts, and that it just seemed to be such a problem. I know it's feast or famine, you're hitting the home run, but got to make contact.
No, especially with the new rules. You know, I mean, we watched Arizona basically contact them way to the World Series.
Yes.
And that American League West is no joke. I mean, Texas winning it. Last year, we're sitting here this time last year when the Rangers were signing guys and bringing it around. And I was saying if they win 2 out of 3 a weekend, that's what you're supposed to do in baseball. You got a shot. Mm-hmm. And really, that was their formula. But if you look at that American League West, you're talking about Texas, the champ, Astros, who won last year, and now you got the Mariners coming on. That's a tough, and the Angels are going to try to do some things this year. So that's a tough division, man.
Yeah.
Really is. Got to leave somebody out. Oh, Oakland. Oakland trying to find their way.
Yeah, that's true, too. How about the Houston Astros? You mentioned them, always in the mix as far as a perennial champion. What's Dana Brown saying right now, JP, about trying to inject some youth into this veteran-laden lineup?
Yes, Adnan, that was one of the most interesting things that I heard yesterday from all the GMs of the American League who spoke with us was the Astros. We think about them and all the veteran talent they've got, Bregman and Altuve, and Dana did talk about the importance of perhaps trying to get Kyle Tucker signed, which is 2 years left for him before free agency. But listen to what Dana Brown said about the importance of bringing some younger players into the position player group for the Astros in 2024.
Yeah, I like young players. You know, I mean, that's what we did in Atlanta. You know, we signed them, we got them to the big leagues quick. And, you know, having a guy like Diaz this year, he's, you know, coming up in 24, he's going to be our everyday catcher. I think he's earned it. He had a good year in 2023. And so I like having young players come up. I think the young players keep the energy for the older players. And it's a reminder that, hey, we have young players coming up, so we better be on top of our game. So I'm big on young players. And, in fact, I told our guys, like, look, we have to do a really good job of getting, you know, identifying what these guys need to do to get better because we need to get them to the big leagues.
I love what Dana Brown said right there about the importance of refreshing your roster. Yes, the Astros have this amazing streak of ALCS appearances, but at some point you need to refresh your roster and bring in some younger talent. As he mentioned, a little news there that Diaz will be their everyday catcher in 2024. Michael Brantley, as we know, a free agent. What does Mauricio Dubon's role become? Of course, they have to hire a new manager. And one name, I'll mention there, Ray Montgomery, who has been on the coaching staff of the Angels in recent years. He actually has a scouting background, as does Dana Brown as well. And Ray Montgomery, a contemporary of both Dana Brown and Jeff Bagwell, growing up in the Northeast and playing baseball there in the late 1980s. So keep an eye on Ray Montgomery as a candidate for the managerial post there in Houston.
Interesting. Wow. Ray Montgomery. I'm writing that down right now. I did think the one thing Dana said was we did this in Atlanta. And you have to remember, he was a big part of what we're seeing in Atlanta all these years. Scouting, developing, all that. And some of my conversations with Dana throughout the summer was revamping this minor leagues to fundamental baseball, running the bases, making the plays, and developing for the big leagues.
And to that point, JP, it's crazy. The Astros and Royals, only 2 teams, 0 top 100 prospects. Now, I get it. When you're a great team, you're not drafting at the top, so it's harder. But still, you got to think you have a few prospects along the line.
Yeah, it's also such. I mean, look, they had all their guys, their prospects in the big leagues.
Right.
You know, I mean, think about it. You got Pena, you had Brown, continually the pipeline happens. I'm sure the Braves don't have a lot of guys in the
top 100.
Top 100 either. You know?
All right, JP, what's the market for Justin Turner? Guy had a terrific season with the Boston Red Sox. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest around JT.
There will be, and he is one of the more fascinating free agents out there because you did see him have a tremendous year for the Boston Red Sox. He proved that he can still hit. He can play some third, he can play some first, he could be a DH for you. I would say the team that plays closest to here the Arizona Diamondbacks could be a great fit for Justin Turner. Of course, Evan Longoria now a free agent, and the benefit of having this young position player core that the D-backs have and relatively cost controlled, you can go out and sign the specifically targeted free agent that you're looking for. And honestly, to circle back to what we heard earlier on in this segment, how about the Mariners? And Justin Turner, what a great fit he would be. Maybe he could play some first or DH, depending on how you handle Ty France and his future there. So I would say those two teams right now on the West Coast really jump out to me in a big way. I think potentially going back to Boston is one more fit, but those are three options that I think stand out. And let's remember as well, the Cubs, because Craig Counsell, when he was the Brewers manager, the Brewers really courted Turner seriously in free agency a couple of years back. So Craig Counsell very involved in that pursuit of JT a couple of years ago. Now in a new managerial post, the Cubs have invested in their manager, maybe a big bat as well.
I'm seeing Astros and Red Sox because of that big left field wall.
Just stick with the Red Sox.
Fitting.
I was going to say, it's a perfect fit. You had a great year. Just stay with Boston. That's my vibe. We're sticking with JP Morosi. Good stuff, JP.